Hello everyone, welcome to the KZGN News. Today we're bringing news about this week's council meeting, a survey showing Ridgecrest as Kern County's smartest city, water district news, Republican women meeting news, today's KZGN Talking Points editorial, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Waynick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. In good news for Ridgecrest, we have been rated Kern County's smartest city. Recently, the Washington Post published a study on the smartest states in America. In the categories of SAT scores and college graduation rate, California ranked as the 34th state in America, which really isn't real good, but not real bad either. As a follow-up to that, another study was made to rate California's cities. Roadsonac.com has used the data to rank cities from dumbest to smartest. Yeah, dumbest to smartest. They decided to look at high school completion rates rather than college-related metrics of smartness, for the sake of figuring out which cities in California are the smartest. After crunching the numbers, they came up with this list of the 10 dumbest cities in the Golden State. They were Huron, Avenal, King City, Greenfield, Mendota, Arvin, Wasco, Lindsay, Hawaiian Gardens, and Bell. As a note, Los Angeles was ranked as the state's 95th dumbest city. The survey group stated they realized that formal education isn't everything when it comes to being smart, but on the other hand, not having an education is not good. So they narrowed down their criteria to focus both on a city's educational opportunities and what percentage of the population takes advantage of those opportunities. In short, they came up with these criteria to determine the dumbest to smartest cities in California. Percent of cities' population with less than a high school education for age 25 and above, and then the percent of high school dropouts aged 16 to 19. Note, they only looked at cities with populations greater than 5,000, leaving them 427 cities in California to rank. They also looked at the graduation rates of the entire population, not the current rates for high schoolers. Here's Kern County cities, from dumbest to smartest. Arvin was 6th place, Wasco 7, Delano 19, Tehachapi 40, McFarland 45, Shafter 96, California City 115, Bakersfield 165, Taft 224, and finally, the smartest city in the Kern County, Ridgecrest, came in at 255th place. Ridgecrest fell slightly higher than halfway. It was amazing how many cities all around us were worse than Ridgecrest as well. Even outside of Kern County, but still nearby, we were rated smarter than Lancaster, Palmdale, Victorville, Barstow, and many others in this area of California. Anyway, this was just kind of interesting news. It shows Ridgecrest is doing pretty good on the education level. Well, the Ridgecrest City Council met Wednesday evening for the regular council meeting. They opened the meeting with a presentation from Gary Parsons on the city's industrial economic development marketing outreach activities. He gave an introduction to the council and the public of a new economic development program that he is coordinating with the contractor WEDA. He showed basically 4 campaigns, each one with a different purpose. Most were to get potential new businesses to move here. There were mailers and videos shown. There was compliments and some criticism from the public. Gary noted the comments and stated they would be taken into consideration. The council recommended that he coordinate his effort with the East Kern County Economic Development Group. Next on the agenda, they considered these items. First, they approved $100,000 of unallocated tax allocation bond funds as payment to Southern California Edison for an engineering advance for power pole relocation design associated with the South Down Street widening project. This item was questioned as to SCE asserting that they shouldn't have to pay for moving the poles, as they are within their right-of-way. The city has ordered them to move the poles at SCE's cost. Since the city doesn't want to hold up the project any longer than necessary, while the dispute is being worked on with the attorneys, the city will advance SCE $100,000 to do the engineering. If we win the city's position, then they'll have to repay the $100,000 back. Next, they approved an agreement with the County of Kern for the Community Development Block Grant funding for the City of Ridgecrest's ADA transition plan and access improvements, and acceptance of the terms of the receipt of the CDBG funds in the amount of $137,000. Then they approved a professional service agreement with Willdan Engineering in the amount of $99,000 to provide construction management for the West Drummond Avenue widening project. Then they approved a consultant agreement for design services and construction management with the HLA Group for planned playground improvements at Pearson and Upjohn Parks and facility improvements at the Kerr-McGee Youth Sports Complex. This item inspired questions from the public as to what is actually being proposed. How much money is being potentially allotted to this project? Well, the council felt comfortable with the proposal, as staff said they would bring the final designs back to the council when they get them. What is interesting is that the current full council has never had an agenda item briefing them on the plans for using a little more than $2 million in TAP funds allocated to Parks and Recreation. Next, they approved submission of the fiscal year 2015-16 Transportation Development Act claims to the Kern Council of Governments. And finally, they had a discussion of the city's mid-year financial report. This was a favorable report. One member of the public asked some questions that did cause some further questions from the council. Some more information will have to be looked into to make sure the report is accurate. Now here's a reminder from the Indian Wells Valley Water District. March is the transition month between winter water restrictions and summer water restrictions. During March, do everything you can to continue to reduce water use, especially when it comes to outside watering. Use only what you absolutely need to water. Don't waste water. In April, the summer water restrictions will go into effect. Make sure and follow them. The Ridgecrest Republican Women Federated has just released information on their next luncheon and announced details of their guest speaker. Reservations are required for this event. The luncheon will be Friday, March 18th from noon to 1:30 p.m. It'll be in the banquet room of the Clarion Inn, located on North China Lake Boulevard. Their guest speaker will be the Honorable Judge Corey Woodward. President Woodward is running for re-election to the bench. The luncheon will provide an opportunity to get to know Corey Woodward and hear what he wants folks to know about him and his duties as judge. We know Woodward and his wife, Paula, have two children who are 23 and 21 years old. One of their children is in law school, and the other is graduating from college this spring. The Woodwards have lived in Tehachapi for over 20 years and in Kern County for 29 years. Woodward was a deputy district attorney for 16 years. Half of those years he was assigned to East Kern County, working every week in the courts of Ridgecrest, Mojave, and Lake Isabel. In 2003, he was elected commissioner of the Superior Courts by judges of the Superior Court. In 2007, he was appointed judge by former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. For 12 of the 13 years on the bench, he has been assigned to East Kern County. Woodward and his wife were raised in Barstow and have a special affection for the desert. The cost of the luncheon is $15. Reservations are required. Please make reservations by calling 760-446-0815. Now stay with us. After the break, we'll have the KZGN Talking Points editorial. Thanks for staying with us. Now it's time for the 127th KZGN News Talking Points editorial. Here's today's topic. Did you notice Mexican flags being waved in the Chicago protests last week? But first, a couple comments about the last editorial titled, Is Trump to Blame for the Violence at His Rallies? Harry offered this comment, Protesters or disruptors? I think disruptors is more like it. Is what they do anarchy and confusion? No solutions. Shannon agreed, saying, I agree they are disruptors. Well, since this editorial, the news has determined that these protest disturbances were organized and funded by a couple left-wing organizations that will do anything to get a Democrat elected in November. They have even said it on their websites. They'll do anything to get their candidate elected. To me, that includes any unsavory and possibly illegal action just to get their way. This also includes one other thing I noticed at the outside demonstrations. There were actually some Mexican flags being waved in the streets of Chicago. And that leads me to today's topic. As the news stations covered the protest/disturbances at the canceled Trump rally in Chicago, did you notice both inside the venue and outside the venue there were a few Mexican flags being waved? And this was in Chicago. When did Mexico take over Chicago? First, I'll say that freedom of speech allows this, so that's fine. But freedom of speech also allows me to criticize supposed people that are trying to influence American politics while waving any other nation's flag. I ask, what is more important to these protesters, America or Mexico? If you care so much about America, why are you waving a Mexican flag? That is un-American. I get the tie to Trump's proposed plan to deal with illegal immigrants, but the plan is about controlling all illegal immigrants, not just Mexican illegals. There have been thousands of illegals coming in from Central and Southern America, as well as Mexico. And these are illegals that Mexico give free passage through Mexico as long as they keep going to the U.S. They won't let them stop in Mexico. Therein lies the real problem. Even Mexico won't let these illegals stay there. They just shove them across our border for us to deal with. And if they wanted to stay in Mexico, they would deport them immediately back to where they came from. So Mexico is a huge part of the problem. And then some of the protesters have the audacity to wave Mexican flags. These are people that do not respect America and all it stands for. Yet liberals are always preaching to conservatives that to restrict illegals is not what America stands for. Well, liberals, how about giving some of these anti-Americans waving Mexican flags a lecture on respecting America? And be sure, again, this is not just about Mexico. If I saw any protester waving a flag from any other country trying to influence the America they are supposed to love, I would offer the same criticism. If some yahoo is waving a German flag protesting against America, I would criticize that as well. To me, it shows these people are not loyal to America. They do not respect the freedoms they are using to protest. They don't care about the United States. They only care about themselves. They only care about stopping the rights of others. That is a key point. Freedom goes both ways. And like I've said over and over again, one person's right does not trump another person's same exercise of the same right. Both will be tolerated in our system. However, my message to these protesters waving another country's flag, they will not make me or other conservatives sympathetic to their protest while waving the Mexican flag. Instead, it will have an opposite reaction. While sympathetic liberals will just kind of brush it off as unimportant, it will inspire other conservatives to fight harder to stop these illegals from being here. Liberals that really care about this issue should warn these people that change will not happen without some form of support from conservatives, and conservatives will not be bullied into accepting their position. Liberals should chastise these proactive demonstrations as hurting their cause, not helping. There are millions of conservative Americans that will just shut down completely if they disrespect American principles. And waving the Mexican flag is not the way to get a conservative on their side of the issue. And there are not enough liberals sympathetic to the cause to accomplish any change without conservative support. A few years ago, there were demonstrations in Los Angeles where there were Mexican flags being waved. Well, there was huge outrage, and even the liberal newspapers here denounced waving of the Mexican flags. And they actually stopped waving the flag. They listened, and the criticism went away. So I asked this question to the protesters waving the Mexican flag. Just what country are you loyal to? The United States or Mexico? Waving a Mexican flag says you are more loyal to Mexico than to the country you want to live in, illegally. You take advantage of the American way of life without fully assimilating into it. You do not respect this great nation. You only want to use it for your benefit. And I'll say the same thing to any other immigrant group. If you want to live in the United States, it is your choice. However, come in legally and then accept our current American way of life as your new way of life. Don't expect the 300 million people that have already embraced the American way of life to change for you. As part of joining this great country, you need to change to our way of life. As long as you do that, you'll be welcomed into our country, just as our forefathers welcomed others in their past. In conclusion, hey protesters and liberals, keep waving those Mexican flags at your protest. That will inspire conservatives to never be sympathetic to your cause. You'll never win conservative support while waving a Mexican flag. Good job. I'm Tom Whitnick, and that's what I think. I'd like to know what you think. If you have any comments about this editorial or would like to discuss or recommend a topic, I'd like to hear from you. Please email them to info@kzgn.net. Now stay with us. After the break, we'll have weather and sports. Thanks for staying with us. Now here's Lane with the weather.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service, a storm system moving through the upper Midwest will bring strong winds to the Midwest, along with heavy snow to portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the upper portion of Michigan. Winter storm warnings are in effect for parts of these states. High wind warnings and wind advisories are in effect for other parts of the Midwest. Temperatures across the nation. Carolinas at 66, Florida at 77, Arkansas at 64, Northern Texas at 61, New Mexico at 56, and Los Angeles at 72. And for us locally, tonight, clear with a low around 47, southwest wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Friday, sunny with a high near 82, east wind 5 miles per hour. Friday night, mostly clear with a low around 49, south-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday, sunny with a high near 84 with a calm wind. Saturday night, partly cloudy with a low around 48, south wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Sunday, sunny with a high near 82, west-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Sunday night, partly cloudy with a low around 50, west-southwest wind 10 to 20 miles per hour with gusts as high as 25. And Monday, mostly sunny with a high near 76, west wind 5 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
Thanks, Lane. And now Tom Heck has sports.
And a very pleasant Thursday afternoon to everyone. Coastal baseball this afternoon up on the hill. The Coyotes take on Chaffee. On Saturday, they'll take on Chaffee again down in Rancho Cucamonga. That game will start at 12 o'clock. That game will be broadcast locally on 12:40 a.m. Also, SaracoastalBaseball.club. NCAA tournament already underway. Big games tonight, but this afternoon earlier, UConn defeats Colorado in a very, very close game. UConn almost lost a pretty big lead the last few minutes. They hold on to beat the Pac-12 opponent. Butler beats Texas Tech, and Duke survives North Carolina Wilmington. Tonight, Fresno State will play Utah, Wichita State will play Arizona, and also USC will play Providence. First tournament for USC in the past 6 years. Let's talk about the NBA last night. The Clippers beat Houston. Orlando gets a win over Charlotte. Also, Atlanta beats Detroit by 4. Golden State, their 34th in a row at home. They beat the Knicks. And Minnesota over Memphis. That would be your abbreviated sports for this Thursday. Have a good evening. I'm Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. All of us at KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.